The train tracks stretched endlessly across the golden autumn fields, their steel veins cutting through a world that felt both vast and unwelcoming. The air carried the heavy scent of smoke, and dust mingled with the weight of promises broken and journeys left unfinished. On a worn wooden bench at the quiet station sat a young woman, her bare feet pressed against the cool planks, while her trembling hands clutched a crumpled letter that had carried her across. Hundreds of miles her hair fell in loose waves, framing eyes that were wide yet clouded with despair, for she was a mail-order bride who had been summoned with hope and then abandoned with cruelty. Every passenger who stepped off the train was greeted with eager smiles, warm embraces, and joyful reunions, yet she remained seated, and alone, her heart breaking more with each passing moment, believing she was unwanted and discarded like a forgotten parcel, just as her hope was nearly extinguished. A small hand tugged gently at her skirt, and a soft, trembling voice whispered words that would change her life forever, asking, "Will you be my mommy?" Her name was Clara, and she had grown up in a world where poverty crushed dreams, where every day was a battle for survival, and where women often had no choice but to place their fate in the hands of strangers. When she had responded to an advertisement promising marriage, a home, and stability on the western frontier, Clara had not seen it as an opportunity for love, but rather as a desperate lifeline. She had sewn together her few belongings and with fragile courage set out on a journey that she prayed would give her the home she had never known. Clara had packed her few belongings into a small sack and sold the only pair of shoes she owned to pay for her train ticket. She traveled across states with a fragile belief that someone was waiting for her, yet when the train finally arrived, no man stepped forward to claim her hand. She sat on the bench for hours, her hope fading with every tick of the clock, until tears filled her eyes and she understood that she had been deceived or forgotten. It was in that moment of despair that a little girl appeared, barely 5 years old, with golden hair braided loosely and a patched teddy bear dangling from her hand. The child approached Clara with innocence that pierced through her sorrow. Her eyes were wide and searching, carrying no judgment, only longing. And when she asked that simple question, "Will you be my mommy?" the weight of it nearly shattered Clara's heart. From the child's eyes, she saw the same emptiness that had haunted her own. The girl's father had died in an accident, and her mother, worn and frail, had not survived the winter. She had been left in the care of distant relatives who saw her not as a child to love, but as a burden to endure. And so, when she looked at Clara, she saw the possibility of family, of warmth, of belonging. Clara wanted to say yes instantly, to gather the child into her arms and never let her go, but the truth of her situation held her back. She was penniless, homeless, and a stranger in a town where outsiders were rarely welcome. Still, the child's plea stirred something deep inside her, an ache she had not known. She carried the ache of wanting to matter, to be needed, to love, and be loved in return. With trembling hands, Clara wiped her tears, took the child's hand, and whispered that she would not leave her side. The townspeople watched from a distance, some with pity, others with suspicion, for in that harsh frontier life, a woman without a husband or protector was considered an outcast. Whispers followed Clara. Wherever she walked, she found scraps of work, washing laundry, scrubbing floors, helping a bakery. But the meager wages were barely enough to feed herself, let alone the little girl nights were spent in barns or beneath the stars, her arms wrapped around the child to keep her warm. Hunger gnawed at her, and exhaustion pressed heavy on her spirit. Yet she refused to let go of the one soul who had given her purpose. There were moments when despair clawed at her heart, when she considered boarding the next train and disappearing from a town that wanted nothing to do with her. But each morning, when the child's small hand found hers and those trusting eyes looked up at her, Clara felt strength return to her bones. For the first time in her life, she was no longer invisible. She was someone's hope, someone's safety, someone's mother, and all but name what Clara did not know was that her quiet courage and unyielding kindness had not gone unnoticed. A local rancher named James, a man who carried his own scars of loss, had watched her from afar. He saw how she shielded the girl from the cold, how she worked tirelessly for pennies, how she endured whispers without anger, and how she smiled at the child even when her own heart was breaking. James, a widower who knew the weight of grief, began, stepped forward, cautiously offering food when he could, leaving firewood by the barn where she slept, and giving her small jobs at his ranch that paid a little more than the rest. Clara, wary of men after a painful abandonment, resisted at first. Clara resisted, but James's quiet consistency began to soften the walls she had built. And through storms, hunger, and endless days of toil, Clara and the little girl grew inseparable. Clara brushed the child's hair with gentle fingers, mended her torn clothes, told her stories by lamplight, and kissed her forehead when tears came. The girl who had once walked with Slumped shoulders and tear-stained cheeks began to laugh again. She ran barefoot through the fields with joy and slowly learned to believe in love once more. And Clara, who had thought herself unwanted, discovered that she had become the very center of someone's world. The turning point came one evening when the town gathered for the harvest festival. Clara, still in her plain brown dress, sat quietly at the edge, holding the little girl's hand. She fell out of place among the music and laughter, convinced that she did not belong. But when James approached her with a gentle smile and asked her to dance, something shifted. The townspeople watched as James, Clara, and the little girl moved together beneath the glow of lanterns. In that simple moment, judgment softened into acceptance, suspicion gave way to respect, and whispers turned into warm, approving smiles. They no longer saw a discarded mail-order bride, but a woman of resilience and love who had given a child back her laughter. Clara's story is a reminder that love can be found in the most unexpected places, and that no one is ever truly unwanted. For even when the world seems to cast us aside, one small voice, whether from a child or a stranger, can whisper a truth powerful enough to change everything. We are needed, we are loved, and we belong.